good. We're still on front of the boat. Hello and welcome back to Patriot Contraptions. Today we are going to be looking at my Venture 17 sailboat from 1974. Now, I am a beginner sailor when it comes to boats this big. I've been sailing a sea snark for my entire life. I've sailed butterfly sailboats, but I've never actually fully appreciated just how many pieces go into a real, full cruising sailboat before. So that's why I bought this particular boat. It's got a lot of the features of a cruising sailboat, but it's smaller, it's obviously trailerable, and I can take it to a lot of my local lakes. So I'll walk you through all the features of this boat, starting off with the trailer section and then working through the inside of the boat. With the trailer on this Venture 17 is because it brought up one of the interesting parts that I'd never considered when buying the boat, and that is how tall the bunks are on the sailboat. Now, I assumed because this is a small 17-foot sailboat, it would actually have a lower bunk height than some of the bigger Venture 21s. I was wrong on that. The Venture 21s actually tend to have a lower bunk height, and the reason for that is because of this swing keel on the bottom of the boat. For those of you not familiar with what a swing keel is, a swing keel swings down when you're out in deep water and up when you're in shallow water to give you more stability when you need it most out sailing. This one here weighs 500 pounds and it does stabilize the boat very well. However, it poses the interesting problem when you go to back it in that you need to back deeper into the water to allow that swing keel to clear the rear of the trailer, which is actually bent down right there, so you can get the swing keel through. But enough on that, let's move to the back of the boat. Located on the back of the boat, I have one motor mount, which supports normally a 2.5 horse Mercury motor. And then up above it, you'll see right here, is the support for the mast when I'm trailering it. And this is also where the rudder hooks. Now the rudder is sitting on the ground right here, so I can show you guys real quick. It has a swing rudder, which means that it swings right here, allowing me to raise it up for shallow water, just like the swing keel, or put it down and strap it in position. This is made out of either teak or mahogany. I'm not sure which, but you guys can comment below and let me know what you think. And then on the back as well, I have this little depth finder that I'll show you just a minute up in the cockpit. So looking at the inside of the cockpit, the first thing you'll notice is the keel winch. The keel winch on the regular Venture is just like a regular trailer winch. You have a little switch, you switch it for forward and reverse, which then raises and lowers the keel. However, on this particular Venture, I have what's known as a friction winch. That's because I've upgraded it, and what that means is that I can crank it without actually having to hit a little switch. I can just go forward and reverse just like that without a single problem. Now, I've also swapped out the stock board that holds up the keel. Mine had rotted away and broken in half with the winch on it, and I've upgraded the support for the winch to a piece of aluminum to distribute the weight of the keel across the entire board, so just in two small sections. I've also got a mount here for a depth finder that I'll show you in just a minute. And then if we come around to the side, I've got two regular winches right here that allow me to pull in the jib sheets or whatever else I want to pull in with them. Then we've got a couple of regular cleats right here on the sides. We've got a smaller cleat and a larger cleat for docking, mainly is what I've been using it for. We've got our lines that control the main sheet on the back of the boat, and then we've got our, right now this would be where the rudder mounts, but I have it mounted with the actual trailer holder that holds up the mast. Next up, let's move to the inside of the boat. Actually, we're going to take a little break here because I'm sure you guys want to know just how hard it is to actually put up the main mast on this sailboat. So I'm going to show you right now. It's pretty simple. You pull out the pins that are holding it in place, or bolts if you have an upgrade on the pins like I have, and then you're able to remove the mast from its holding position, put it in its main position here, as shown. Now I've got my garage in the way, unfortunately, but it would be the same way as if it was actually still on the rest. Then you hold it up, and then what I actually did here is I had an issue with one of the shroud lines getting tangled up, so I had to untangle it real quick, put it down, and then put it back up, and then pull it to the front. And you can see here, this mast is very light, so it's easy for me to hold, hook up that front shroud line, and we're good to go. The total time was only 3 minutes. One thing on the front of the boat that I want to point out real quick is these clips right here are not stock. I put these on to increase the speed of putting up and taking down the mast. So I've got my main support line here, my shrouds that go up. This one is for the front shroud, and then the back hole here on this is actually for the jib to connect to. Then we've got another dock line on the front as well, and the vent for the cabin, which is below decks. It's time for inside of the sailboat's cabin. So coming inside of the sailboat, the first thing you'll notice is that I do not have the stock V-berth in my sailboat. So normally there is a V-berth that covers this front section. However, I found out very quickly after purchasing this sailboat that none of my local lakes allow me to sleep over on them, basically anchoring overnight. And also, I do not fit in this little V-berth section. It's maybe 2 feet right here, so I'm not going to cram myself in there. I'd much rather sleep on one of the 2 bench seats in the back. But I'll give you a tour of what I have in here. So first off, you have where the V-berth normally is, which would go from here to the back. There's also normally a railing right here that I've removed just for easier gear storage. You'll notice that I have a toolbox mounted. This contains all my paperwork, my emergency fire extinguisher, stuff like that on the inside of it. I've also got a small medical kit because this is for pretty much close shore sailing. I've got some main sheet lines that are lying here right now. I've got a trolling motor up there just in case of emergencies if my outboard fails, and then I've got 2 paddles in case the trolling motor fails mounted right next to it. I've got a boat hook, and then I've got my boom, which mounts to the little eye bolt right there next to my boat hook normally. Then on the sides I've got 2 storage bins in the back for my docking lines and also extra rope lines. I've then got storage for my life preservers, my anchors, my extra battery for the trolling motor. I've got tool storage. This also contains my water, stuff like that. And then if you look down under this, you'll actually see this is the V-berth. So McGregor says that this can sleep 4 people. So you'd have 1 here, 1 where I'm sitting currently, and then 2 up front. However, I don't actually think that it's very practical to sleep 4 people in this small sailboat, so I don't plan to do that at any point in the future. However, I myself might try to stay overnight on it at some point, which is why I've kept this side fairly clear, except for this small black box. Now within this small black box is my depth finder that I run off of an 11.1 RC car battery that just plugs into it right here with a Dean's connector. So that allows me to run. I've run that like 4 hours without a single problem, and it barely drained the battery. And then you've got full leg room down to the back of the boat. So that's where I would sleep if I was actually going to sleep on this boat, is right along the side here, as opposed to the V-berth in the front. So let's talk about some characteristics of this boat as far as sailing goes. So sailing this boat is super easy. Once this main sheet's up, it is so fun to just take it out in a light, like 10-mile-an-hour wind and just cruise with it on a small lake. We were out in a lake that was only a 1/4 mile across and maybe a 1/2 mile long, just to break in the boat, get used to using the equipment, start getting everything figured out and sorted on the boat. And it wasn't at all that hard to actually get out there, raise the mast, and then I went so far as to actually raise the jib sheet on it as well. And we were going at a pretty good clip for novice sailors on this particular boat. So I enjoyed that aspect of it. I'm looking forward to getting into it even more, learning more about the art of sailing, which is why I bought this particular boat. And I'm going to be doing more videos in the future, so be sure to subscribe to stay tuned for those as I continue my adventure, continue working on this boat, upgrading this boat, and going out on even longer trips, sailing and just learning the joys of the sailing world. So I'll see you all in the next episode. Have a fantastic day. Patriot Contraptions, signing out.